Welcome into episode 3 of our WTOL 11 Sports Podcast. I am Jordan Strack. We are in our downtown studios. Steve Hardy, the new head coach at Southview, first year taking over the Cougars program, joining me tonight, and I appreciate you taking some time to stop down. Right now, you got the Cougars rolling. You're making this head coaching thing look easy so far in your first year, off to a 3-0 start. You could say what you want about the schedule or whatever, and people will, but that's fine. But to be in your first year and to be 3-0, how good of a feeling has that been?
It feels good. What feels better is just the way we're getting better every week, every day. And, the scores, like you said, the score doesn't really indicate what we want to see. Week 1 looked great. Then week 2 we came in and special teams played really, really well. And we played a weight team that had a great defensive front, and they were controlling our line. And then this past week, we played a really, really quick brush team, very athletic, and they kind of got the edges on us, and kind of our offense wasn't really running really well, but our defense picked us up, and they had 2 touchdowns, and special teams scored again. And so, we got that confidence brewing, and then we have a practice today where it was just great. It's like they're all in to what they need to do every day to really see the future.
All right, let's give people a little idea on your background here. Give everybody an idea, your playing background and all those kind of things.
Right, so I went to Cardinal Stritch High School. I played offensive line there, a little defensive line. I was there, I graduated in 1999. So my senior year went 8-2, which was probably one of the best records they had in a while there. The year after I graduated, that year, 98, when I was a senior, is their last year of 4 teams in the playoffs. We were 5th.
Wow.
So that's always kind of just settled bad. And then that following year, they bumped it to 8. The team went 8-2. They made the playoffs, and they went 9-1, and they lost twice that year to Calvert. So then I went and played college football at Tiffin University for 4 years. Went to grad school at BGSU, which was cool because my dad played at BG. So my football background goes through BG, and going to games when I was a kid at the Deut and seeing Coach Blackney and all that kind of stuff.
I was going to say, who'd your dad? Your dad played for Gary Blackney?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But when we went to games when I was a kid,
okay.
he played way back when.
Okay.
So.
I was going to say, who'd your dad play for? Who would have been there when your dad was there?
He was there a little bit. I can't think of the guy's name who was at West Virginia.
Don Nayland?
Yeah, a little bit with him. That was his time period there. So,
okay.
Yeah. So he went to DeVilbiss, and then he went to BGSU.
Sweet. What kind of memories you have going to BG games as a kid?
Oh, a ton. I was actually thinking about that the other day. I remember when I was a little kid. I mean, obviously we went to a lot of home games.
Sure. And
we went to the game they went down and played at Ohio State.
Yeah.
And all over in the MAC. And but no, I have one memory. We were playing Toledo, so it's BG Toledo, sure. And we used to always sit on the visitor side and the Deut. I don't know why. That's where my dad wanted to sit. Maybe we got better seats or cheaper seats. I don't know. But we were there, and I had snuck in. I was a little kid. I snuck in a bag of orange and brown confetti. We're surrounded by all these UT fans, right? And we score a touchdown, and we're the only ones really cheering. And I throw it up in the air, and it lands over this big UT fan. He turns around, and my dad just looks at me. I was like, oh. But no, just going to games, and they were being successful then, and then getting to watch them go to a couple bowls that they went to. It just kind of sparked football, and it was a way of life.
How did you break into coaching? How did you know? When did you know that was something that you wanted to do?
Well, so I worked down at Virginia Tech for 3 years,
okay.
Right out of grad school, and season tickets there, great environment for football, and my boss was an official. Okay. So he got me into doing that. I was official for 3 years that I was down there. I came back here. I got a job at UT, and I was looking into being an official again. And things weren't the same. It was just a little different. And the day I decided, I'm just not going to officiate, a buddy who I went to school with at BG called me at Perrysburg. He was going to be the 8th grade coach and asked me if I wanted to do it with him. I was like, sounds good. Met with Kriegel, and everything was great. He's an BG guy, and I spent 9 years coaching 8th grade with the same coach at Perrysburg.
Nice. Well, I want to talk about the officiating thing. Like, does that give you more of an interesting perspective now as a coach when you're addressing officials? We've talked about the official shortage ad nauseum. Right. Like, everybody knows about it by this point. Do you have a different approach now, knowing like what officials go through? Do you
I
kind
do,
of
and I'll
approach it
tell
a
you what,
little
I
different?
enjoyed it. I mean, I was right out of grad school, and so I was, able to run around. And in that association, you worked with a different group every single week,
Okay.
in a different school every single week, and it was just a great experience. And no bet, I mean, some really good football down in Virginia, and you got no better view than being on the field.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as that goes, yeah, definitely now. I get on my staff a lot. We just talked about it yesterday about, I'm the one communicating. You're not going to change a call.
Yeah.
These guys are out here and all that stuff. And, the early in my coaching career, was harder, because
Sure.
you want to blame something when something doesn't go right. And I remember, and I just brought it up to him because he was an official at our clay scrimmage. I was a JV game, I was coaching, and things weren't going well. Like my quarterback got hurt. I'm on a backup JV quarterback. And, I'm yelling at the coach or the official about something. And he said, coach your players.
Yeah.
And that moment, just sticks in my mind as, you're 100% right. It's a JV game. Let's just stick to trying to get these kids better. And ever since then, my attitude with the officials, and, hopefully it stays the same, is, they have their job to do. They're trying to do the best they can. They can't see everything. Mm-hmm. I know all about the different angles that they're seeing and what they're supposed to be looking at, and they're going to miss things.
Yeah.
We're going to see things. We have the iPads on the sideline where we can break down every little thing. They can't do that. They're doing the best they can. So for the most part, it's not really a huge concern of mine as far as coaching.
I think I feel like every parent should have to sit through like a 30-minute YouTube tutorial on officiating before they, or
It's
just
hard.
you know,
basketball is even tougher.
Basketball is brutal because you're in a gym, and I feel so bad for these officials because you can hear every single thing a parent says in
Right.
those basketball gyms.
Yeah.
We're talking small gyms.
Well, and it's so it's like every play in basketball is pass interference.
Yes.
Right? It's like a
Yes.
judgment call.
Every one
and
of-
it's
yeah, every single time.
you can go either way, and what are you gonna do? But that kind of comes back to part of my why about why I went to be a head coach
Yeah.
and tried to move forward, and that's just trying to get the kids to have a good high school football experience like I did.
Yeah.
I was with a great class at Stritch, and we were really invested in the weight room and getting better. Had a pretty good size class for Stritch, and we came in our senior year and went 8-2, and it was a great year, and it was a great experience. And that led me to want to be an official, led me to want to coach, contribute. My stepson played football. I'd encourage people to play football, and that's what I want the kids, because if they don't have a good high school experience, then there's no way they're ever going to ever coach, or at least be a quality coach, or in it for the right reasons. Same thing with officiating. So.
When did you know that you were ready to be a head coach? You've been doing the thing as an assistant for a little while. When did you know that you were ready to be a head coach?
Well, so 3 years ago, when Coach stepped back and retired, and the position was open, I thought about it.
Sure.
I mean, it's like, when's another opportunity going to come up? If I don't go for it, am I going to have a job next year? Am I going to go back to coaching 8th grade at Perrysburg? What am I going to do? And, I knew the 2 finalists, and I talked to them, and they both wanted me on their staff. So I was like, all right, well, now's not the right time. Yeah. Hindsight, do I think anything's really changed with me in the last 3 years? What would I be if I would have went for it 3 years ago? I don't know. But, I think over the last 3 years in growing, I've been at Southview, this is my 6th year, and every year I've progressed. Started out as a freshman coach, then a position coach and a JV coach, and then 2 position coaches, and then last year I was offensive coordinator. So making that step up, the transition has been super, super easy. But I think at some point over the last 3 years, I kind of thought, what would I do differently? And I started taking notes as far as what things I could do to maybe help this team in the future.
What's your philosophy in coaching? Is there a? Because I think everybody's kind of similar X's and O's. Everybody gets the game. Everybody does.
Steal stuff. Yeah.
Right. No. You're not. It's hard to be smarter than somebody else in football because there's only so many things you can do. But what's your coaching philosophy? What separates you maybe from somebody else, or that you're trying to do at least?
Well, what I'm trying to do this year is just focus on. I haven't been in that environment the last 5 years. I've kind of taken notes, like I said, about things that kind of need improved, whether it's my personality or fits exactly with the way I want to do, or my personality. It's what really needs to improve on this team. And one of the things was just being super organized. And I'm a super organized person when it comes down to, I'm all into stats and that kind of stuff. But if I can put that onto the field so that the kids don't have to think about anything. They know what's expected of them. The coaches know where they're supposed to be at all times. The layout of the field doesn't change as far as practice goes, and every week is exactly the same. That's why we were out there today on Labor Day. Everything was the same, and the kids are like, well, we don't have school today. No, everything's the same. It's consistent. It's organized. And so that's one major thing. The biggest thing that I've pushed, and it's always been a big part of me, is respect. And you got to respect not only like, the jersey and the name in your locker room and your field and your teammates and your coaches, but just the way you present yourselves. Because as football players, you're always going to have, that, that highlight on you. The focus is going to be on you. And so you need to be the person that you need to be. And it's not fake or anything like that. It's just, if you're in the light, you need to present yourself in a positive way because other people are looking up for you. And so respect was the first thing I hit our team with. The first time we met in the auditorium, I said, look, things are going to change. We're not going to talk a certain way. We're not going to listen to certain music. We're not going to treat our uniforms and throw them on the ground. No, we're going to collect them every week. We're going to get them washed. We're going to take care of them because that represents us. Anything that represents us, we're going to take care of first.
Having that perspective as an assistant coach, how does it help when you become a head coach? And have you learned to maybe delegate or things like, I think I kind of asked Josh Linke this last week, but like, how much does that perspective of being an assistant coach help when you become a head coach?
Well, I mean, first of all, I one of the first things I did was go out of my way to try to get the best assistant coaches as possible, and bring back a couple coaches that maybe have gone through Southview in the last couple years. Bring in some other coaches that I've known in different ways, and that was the number one thing, because I knew what needed to be done and the amount of work that I needed to do with non-football things. So I needed an offensive coordinator I could trust. I needed a defensive coordinator I could trust. I needed position coaches who are better than me at certain positions so that I don't have to worry about all that and I can focus on what needs to be improved. And, everyone's kind of taken things and ran with it, and everything's going really great right now. I had a couple great coaches kind of fall into my lap, and Coach Mays and I were just talking about that today, and it's just there's so many great things going on with our staff that have made all the other stuff easier for me.
Shout them out. Give them some love here. Give these guys some love, man. This is your platform. Tell them how much you love them right now. It's okay. That's okay to talk about.
Well, okay, I'll talk about a couple of them. Coach Etz is our offensive coordinator. He spent some time at St. John's. He was a head coach up in Michigan, and actually he coached me, I think, 2 years at Stritch.
Okay.
So it's really cool to be able to coach
awesome.
with somebody that coached you, and he's got so much experience. It's his offense that he's tweaked to our personnel, and it's great. It's great, and
awesome.
It's a lot of the same kind of offensive values that I see too. So, and he listens to me and things I think might work here or there, and it's a good relationship. And he has that experience. And Coach Mays is coaching the receivers. He has all the more experience than anybody in the area. So that kind of holds the offense together. On the defensive side, Coach Vogelson is my defensive coordinator. He spent some time at Ottawa Hills. On their staff, and then he was on our staff a couple years ago, and I brought him back, and he's just perfect for that kind of position. He's very poised and so good at just breaking things down. And then a coach that kind of fell into my lap is Coach Jim Beach, and he's in charge of Young Life for the Sylvania area, and so he just moved into town. He was a defensive coordinator up in Addison, I believe it's Addison, Michigan.
Okay.
And he kind of just fell into my lap. He's like, hey, I'm moving in the area. I want to volunteer a little bit or just be part of a staff. And I met the guy, and I talked to his old head coach, and it's just like, you got to hire this guy because he's amazing. And he's just, he's never ran our defense, but he took the time to learn it. And I'm talking to him, he's like, oh yeah, you should follow this guy on Twitter because he does the best with this defensive front that we're running, and he has the best drills. And I'm like, it's nonstop with him, and he was like my gift when I became a head coach, I think. As far as I got a player and I got a coach, and the coach was Coach Beach, and he's just doing a great job.
Isn't it funny how the football world kind of works sometimes?
Right.
Everybody kind of you kind of know some people here, you know some people there, and the football world is such an interesting place to me because there's so many little connections that you don't even know about or think about, and then to have something like that happen,
right, especially with
awesome.
the years you spend playing and coaching,
sure.
and just the levels of and even all the people I reached out to when I was going through the interview process, like my former college coach and a kid who I knew when I was at Virginia Tech, who then now is a strength and conditioning coach out at Nevada. And I'm calling him, asking for some help and spend some time with him. Other coaches in the NLL that I reached out to and just said, hey, from your perspective, what's wrong with Sylvania from the other side of the field? And some of them are really great as far as that goes, and just helping with some other areas too. Another example, and I got to give him a shout out, and we're playing him this week, but Springfield's coach actually loaned us some helmets because we ran out of helmets. So we got some freshmen in Springfield helmets. and he was just great about helping out, and Mommy offered to help too, but I thought white was a little better than the brand.
I mean, come on, I'm a little particular to the Mommy thing myself, and this is my weekly Mommy shout. I have no idea how this keeps happening.
It did come up.
Somehow every single week Mommy has been brought up, and this is my weekly Mommy shout out. So you mentioned having Jim Mazes on your staff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the guy is a legend in these parts. He won a state title. He was a head coach forever. It just so happens that his son is playing quarterback now.
Mm-hmm.
He loves Southview. To have him around, what has that been like?
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, he's he's in a role now where he's my mentor, but he's also, he's totally different than when he was the head coach.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've noticed Jim has changed over the years quite a bit. He'll know what I mean. Jim has changed a little bit over the years. He's kind of calmed down a little bit.
Right, but his excitement level and his positivity and his joy is awesome out there. And he loves just having one thing to focus on or a couple things to focus on and excelling at that and doing whatever he can to make the team better, and being around his kid is a bonus. But as far as getting to work with him, I mean, like you said, I mean, he's the one who begged me to come over from Perrysburg to coach at Southview. I met him at an 8th grade open house for my stepson. And, working at Perrysburg and then working in Sylvania, they have different perceptions of the different schools. And so I've kind of waited in the middle there for a while. But as far as having him on the staff, I mean, it's just, like you said, he has all the experience in the world. There's nothing that he hasn't seen. And the more you get to know him and ask him questions about why he does certain things or did certain things, it's all for a reason.
Sure.
I mean, the perception might not be the reality, because what he's doing is to do something to help somebody over here. And his biggest why is just to help the kids and have them success. And it's so refreshing to see him now and be around him every day. It's great. And if I don't see him, I talk to him every day. And he's always coming to me saying, okay, I would be doing this like this. And then, why are you doing this like this? And I would say, this is why. And he goes, oh, that works for you. That works. Let's do it. And there's a lot of back and forth as far as knowing the history, but then also this is another way to do it, and it's still going to work. It still can be, it can still work out well. So it's great. And I always ask him and coachettes too, what can I do to be better? What did I do tonight? Like after our first game, what are things I can improve on the sideline or in meetings or in practice? And they're pretty honest about it, and that helps.
Yeah. Is that hard to, I mean, listen, none of us are finished product. Like, it doesn't matter what job or what thing you're doing in life. It's probably a good lesson for the kids too. Like, I mean, none of us are a finished product. Like, how do you keep continuing to want to take advice and, I guess, get better every single day and admit that you're not completely finished, you're not perfect? That's not, because none of us want to do that.
It's
like,
hard.
None of us want to do that, right?
I've just found in life that that's the best way to go about things. I mean, because if you pretend to know everything, the kids, number one, are going to see right through it.
Sure.
And if you give them the wrong answer, or you try to really sell an answer that you don't really know what you're talking about, they're going to pick up on it, and then the next time they ask you something, or they're not even going to ask you the next time. So when I was younger, I got burned on that a couple of times, so I'm just not going to do it. If I don't know something, I'm going to ask somebody who's smarter, been through it, and then get the advice. And it's hard sometimes, but I think it's teaching the kids a good lesson, and I think overall it's better for the program, and it's better for me. I mean, I was telling my one coach, I was like, our first game was my least stressful day since I got hired.
Really?
Just because of everything else going on, that the day of the game was just good. We were ready to go. The offensive and defensive coordinator, they were probably stressing out. I mean, I call special teams, but that's, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And, in the first week, it was a lot of kickoff and PAT. So, no, I was relaxed. And even last week, Coach Beach is like, "Are you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. We're about to have a game." And he's like, "Oh, I'm good."
Checking your pulse to make sure you're good.
No, but I think a lot of that was from last year, being up in the booth for the first year, calling offensive plays. I was like, there's no way you can get through that unless you're calm.
Yeah.
Because if you're chaotic, you're going to display that to the kids. So I was like trying to be overly calm, and that kind of developed into this.
Authenticity, I think, is probably the most important thing. Being authentic to the kids, like you're right. Like kids see through that stuff. Like
right.
they don't. You can't sell them something and hope they're going to buy it. Do you consider yourself more of an offensive guy? And where are you mindset wise during a
game? When I was in high school, I played offensive line. I went to college. I started as a center. I ate and ate and didn't put on the weight, so they moved me to tight end. But in the college setting, playing offense, you learn more about defense than offense.
Yeah.
Because you're studying the teams you play week in and week out, and so you spend more time really talking about defense than offense.
Yeah.
When I went to Perrysburg, the guy I coached with, Coach Fonke, he was a former quarterback, so he had the offense on lockdown, and he wanted to throw the ball every play, and I'm the one who kind of ran the running attack in the offensive line, and then I called defense.
Yeah.
So I kind of coached myself on how to coach defense, and I coached linebackers, which was kind of new. When I first came on Southview staff, I coached defensive line. So I got to learn that, and Coach was really adamant in his last couple of years about defensive line, and I learned a lot, and it was hard at times, but as far as I am definitely more offensive minded when it comes to that, and my focus is offensive line play and that. I've coached running backs the last couple of years too, so I kind of got a good mindset of that too.
Just kind of do it all. You run two quarterbacks out there a little bit.
Every other play.
Yeah. How do you do and this is something that Jim has done for years. Jim would do this forever. I mean, he had a Kelly Rowe.
Not as consistent as
not like what you're doing. Yeah.
Right.
But Jim would play two quarterbacks and it wasn't a thing. Who cares? But and the old adage is if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. How in the world do you make that dynamic work?
Well, first of all, the two kids are great.
Yeah. You have to be.
Right.
Because if they don't.
They got really close. So the last week of the season last year, they were splitting time in our playoff game. They were going every other series. And so they become friends last week of last season, and then they just stay close all year. They both play basketball. And throughout the off season, they're friends, and we're talking. Who are we going to play? Who are we going to play? I don't know, whatever. And then obviously I get hired, and I'm talking to Coach Etz, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. For right now, we're going to go every other play, and that's how we started practicing. And the way we call our plays, it works really easy when you just got to run a new quarterback in every other play.
And so nobody's coming to the sideline to get a call or whatever.
Right, and you can literally talk to them about that last play on the sideline.
Yeah.
So that's the way we did it in practice, and the rhythm is there. So it's not like they're getting out of rhythm because they're in there every other play. And we told ourselves, until one separates from the other, we're just going to keep with this system. And, they're both good at different things, but they're also good at the same things in some aspects. And, they're both doing great, and we're doing well. So why really change it?
I don't know if I've ever seen anybody else do. Have you ever seen anybody else do anything?
No, I haven't. And I don't know.
Literally, we're talking literally like
every other play.
You're running a different guy out there,
and one's left-handed and one's right-handed.
It's the most it is the most mind-blowing thing. I had our guy come back the first week after shooting your game, and he said, "Dude, you're not going to believe this." And I'm like, "You're right. I don't believe this." But it's the most bizarre thing. How do you keep everybody happy? Like up at Michigan right now, everybody thinks Jim Harbaugh is crazy for going for game one, game two. You're doing it every other play. How do you keep everybody happy?
Well, I'll tell you what. When we start practice, at least during two-a-days, we had our third string take the first rep so that nobody was starting, which is kind of fun. And I was asked, why are you having him go in? He was like, oh, that way there's no debate right now. But like I said, it's working. They're still enjoying themselves. I mean, obviously there's competition, and when a pass play is called, they want to be in there, and they also when we got a QB run, they want to be in there too. So, as far as everything goes, as long as we're having success, I think we're going to be fine. But there's hard days coming ahead of us and some challenges coming up. And, we do scenarios, and we do a scenario where a quarterback's hurt, so you got to go in every play in a row. And, I think they'll be fine in that capacity, too, if we come to that point.
Well, that was going to be what I was going to say. Is like when you get into a tight game and you have to run tempo and we're in a 2-minute drill situation.
We did 2-minute today, and we do every other play.
In a 2-minute drill, you still did it.
Yep. And I got to put this all on.
Dude, you're blowing my mind right now. I've like no football coach in America thinks you're sane right now. You realize that? Like I don't understand. It's incredible.
Well, and I don't know if Coach Etz, is excited about this or not. It's working, and when I asked him when we do 2-minute, how are we going to do it? And he's like, we're just going to keep him flipping. And he's more chill than I am sometimes about things, and just letting things flow. And like I said, as long as it's working and they accept their role,
sure.
I think they both want to start.
Right, of course.
This is the next best thing,
kids,
right?
Yeah. This is. I think it's such an interesting case study, and maybe we'll. Maybe I need to come out and do a story on that. I already got one story lined up with you that I want to do. Maybe that might be my a little sidebar we spin off this thing, because I just think it's so fascinating.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if it can continue.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, and here's the other thing: is like, you want somebody to separate. You want them, or do you just say,
I want to keep winning football games.
Like that? Yeah, that's the most important thing, right? It's like
and
if you're winning,
better
who
on
cares?
offense. Right.
Like
the first week, they both threw 2 touchdown passes. And they both kind of struggled the last couple of weeks a little bit at times, but a lot of that was kind of offensive line and who we were playing and their strengths and mashing up with us. But on the other side of it, we were trying to be ultra aggressive against weight, and our special teams, we had 4 kick returns for touchdowns. So when you do that, the offense is being taken off, and they only had like 30-some plays.
Yeah, it's hard to get a rhythm and all those things. That's very, very interesting. All right, looking ahead now, towards the end of this season, as you get into league play now and you start looking at this thing, how good can this group be? I think everybody on paper looks at it and thinks that Anthony Wayne and Perrysburg are probably the 2 best teams in the Northern Lakes League. I'm not slighting you guys or anything. I'm just saying on paper that's what people are probably thinking right now, and history would show that over the last few years. What's your take on the Northern Lakes League right now? You've been around it for a little while.
I have, and I mean that's exactly what's going on. I mean, those 2 teams have separated themselves. They're bigger. They've grown in the last couple of years, where all the other schools are not growing at that rate. Some of them are getting smaller. So that has a lot to do with it. Great coaches. Andy's doing a fantastic job, and that's one of the coaches that I reached out to when I was getting interviewed. So they're both great. As far as where things lie, I mean, you got to look at recent years, and we've gotten better every year, and that was what Coach Rowe really stressed was, this is how far we are from them right now. Well, okay, we're getting a little closer this year, and a little closer this year, and a little closer this year, and if you look at like our freshman group, when they were freshmen, they went undefeated, and they blew everybody out, including Anthony Wayne and Perrysburg. So they have that experience, and our junior class is just huge. I mean, there's 30 kids, and they're talented, at multiple positions. I mean, there's no real hole in that group, and so then we have seniors that are super experienced too. So have we bridged the gap all the way? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the goal for the year is obviously to be successful in every chance you get. What we really wanted to do was, win the games that we should win and be competitive in the rest.
Right.
And in the past, I think last year, we won some of the games we should have won. We lost some of the games we should have won, and we weren't competitive in the games that we were overmatched. So we'll see. I mean, is it the worst season if we don't win those games? No. I mean, any positive movement forward is a great thing with the way the playoffs are structured. Top 16 teams, obviously a goal is to make the playoffs, have a winning record, compete in every game, win the games you should, beat Northview. These are the things that we want to do. And if we can, pull an upset off and take one of those 2 guys down, back-to-back on the road at their place, it's going to be tough.
How did the scheduling gods work that out for you, that you have to play back-to-back at Perrysburg and Anthony Wayne?
And we got to go to Napoleon, too.
That's just like, man, oh, man, somebody wasn't doing you guys any favors. All right, one of the last things I'm going to ask you here, the new Northern Lakes League will be here next year.
Yep.
What's your perspective, and how do you feel that Southview is set up in a positive or negative way once the new Northern Lakes League gets here?
Well, I mean, it was an interesting idea when it first started, and
Sure.
I know you were all over it
Yeah.
on Twitter, and I'm asking you questions if you know anything, and you're like, I don't know. And you know, I was hoping that it'd be two big, full leagues.
Yes.
You know, two split down the middle with 8 teams, and I think that would have been a perfect scenario. You know, right now, being a bigger school in the smaller division, you still have to play those crossover games against all the big
Yeah.
teams before you get to your actual league games. So, I mean, that's kind of tough, but I think, you know, of all the years to move into it, next year is going to be the year for us to do it. I mean, I'm okay with it. And it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. You know, it's playing some teams that you've never played before, getting to, you know, travel places, different places. Some of these kids have never been to any of these places. So it'll be fun, new challenge, but we'll see how it goes.
Awesome.
I'm really trying to focus on this year.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I get big picture, and I want to look at everything and forget. You know, you football coaches are just, hey, I got to get through tomorrow.
Right? Yep.
Tomorrow I got to get through this, and I got to do this and this. And like, you football coaches are also just regimented. It might be a better conversation in the off season. Listen, I appreciate you taking the time coming down here. Good luck the rest of the way. Keep this thing rolling.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, that's Steve Hardy, the head football coach at Southview. This is week 3 of our WTOL 11 Sports Podcast. We will see you back here next week.